Hello, everyone. It's October. Can you believe this? And it's the full moon, first full moon of the October. Actually, the next full moon isn't until November, but it's been fascinating. I don't know. I used to use the word interesting, but fascinating is more like it these days. And I hope you are all doing well wherever you are, because you're joining me and Chris from all over the world. So I welcome you. And for those of you that will be listening to this later, you will get the same vibrational energies from us and all that's here. So don't worry if you have to listen to the recording. Okay. And so I think, where do we start today? I want to say a couple things about the moon to get started with, and then I'll pass it to Chris. And I hope you are all enjoying the YouTube recordings that we've been doing. Good. Yeah, thanks for the thumbs up. And we will continue with the chakras and anxiety. I hope that was the first and second chakra. I was going to actually make that whole video in one sitting, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have so much to say. You know me, I always have so much to say. So I thought, well, I'll just chunk them out. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful for you. And I'll talk about this a little bit more later on as well. But the key is to get to know yourself, right? Know thyself. That is my goal in my life this time, because I am Masami this life around. I know several of my past lives. I have a lot of male streaks in me. I have had multiple male past lives. But this time I'm getting to know me. So that's what those videos are hopefully helping you do, is to get to know some of these symptoms and signs, and you can start to pay attention. You know, that is the whole key of being on this earth, is to stay curious. So please remain interested in who you are, what's around you. I am very interested in the world affairs as well. I don't turn off the news completely. That doesn't mean I read and watch news all day long, but my background is in political science and I have a master's in international business. So I am very, very interested in the world affairs. So I am definitely part of this world, and knowing what's happening in the world helps me to show up differently, and to know how I can show up differently, so that I can change the vibrations and the frequencies of what's happening in the world. So if you are one of those people that have been taught to not read the news, don't ever participate in getting the news, and if that works for you, that might be your journey. But I am kind of the opposite school of thought. I like to know seasonal changes, what's going on in politics, what's going on in finance, what's going on in educational systems to medical systems. So those things will come up a little bit on this call as well, because this full moon really spotlights things. That's the key. This full moon is not a floodlight where it'll shine everything and in anything kind of a thing, but it really directs you to focus in on the areas of your life that you can change, that you can bring more joy and understanding, the areas of your life that you can bring your spice, your touch, your sweetness, your understanding, your experiences, past experiences, that you can direct it a little bit more clearly, so that that can actually shift and expand not only your life, but your neighbor's life, the world's life. So hopefully you can feel that. You should be feeling that a little bit right now. Okay. And if you are, you're on the right track with this. And then I wanted to say a couple things. I mean, there's a lot more to say about the full moon, but the first couple things I wanted to say is that I don't know if you've ever heard anybody talk like this, but I know this to be true, is that you want to pay attention to when the full moon is and when the new moon is. And you also want to pay attention to what day that's happening. So this full moon in particular is happening almost all across the world on the Sunday. Okay. So Sunday has a very much of a connection to the fourth chakra. Okay. Sunday has a connection to the fourth chakra. So this full moon is going to really crack open or widen your heart center. And so this is when you want to bring these two ideas. So it's an opening of the fourth chakra, your heart center, but in a focused way. Okay. This full moon is a focused way to open up your heart center. So it's not like you're opening your heart center, everything and in anything, and everything but the kitchen sink kind of thing, but focus in on it. What is it that you have always been interested in? What is it that you have always been drawn to listening or reading and learning about? And then can you filter that through your heart center? And the full moon isn't just like a one day and then it's over. There's a pre-full moon energy that we've been experiencing, and then there'll be a full moon energy that you'll experience for the next 2-3 days. So stay tuned, stay with the fourth chakra connection. Okay. And maybe I'll just say a couple more things and I'll hand it over to Chris for just the, introduction to our YouTube channel and things like that too, again. But think of this full moon as a spotlight that you're shining outward, but also there's a spotlight that is reflecting back to you. So the moon is asking you to say, what is it that you are trying to enhance and to shine, make you shine more? And don't get too many lists going. Like, don't list 10 things or 20 things. Come up with like 1 or 2 maximum that it's something that people are captivated by you, people are drawn towards you for, because it's something that outside is shining into you and you are awakening to that, your own inner light. So find something that makes people go, yeah, I just love that about you, or this enhances who you are. And that is what the moon is reflecting back to you. So let those things maybe come to you in the dreams. Dreams been really intense for the last, I would say, 5 days or so. It's been pretty intense. So the dreams should be telling you a lot of things about what is your true light and what captivates who you are to the others and what would enhance your inner light. So it kind of goes both ways, but wait for that answer to come. Maybe you can ask your best friend. Maybe you can ask your spouse. You can ask your children. Maybe people you care and trust. They might be able to tell you what your light is and have them be specific with it. Okay, that's the key right now, not to get too distracted and trying to shine everything, because there's so much chaos going on, so many things that you could go and volunteer, or you can go picket. You can join this group and maybe get involved in certain things, but then another thing will pop up. And so there's so much going on that there's a lot you can do and participate in, but that's going to exhaust you further. That is going to actually dim everything. So make sure you're putting a lot more energy towards 1 or 2 things. Okay. So that's where I will pause for a moment. There's so much more to say, but I'm going to have Chris welcome others as well.
Okay. So I just have a few words I want to say, and I'm going to put up our website there in the chat. So it's just masamicovey.com. And I think on this call, just from who we're seeing here and who we've said hello to already, most of you on the live call already know this information, but I'm going to repeat it again. And if you don't mind for 1 second, I'm going to share my screen as well. So just bear with me while I switch over. And I'm going to just walk you through a couple of things that are important on the website. And that is, I want to show you, first of all, just navigating, in case you're new to this, how you can join the mailing list. So where you find out information about calls like this and other courses that are coming up, or if you want to share it with other people. And then also the latest of our videos, and I'm going to refresh that because that is not the newest one there. So what we want to be able to do with you here is just start to join in the conversation. And one of the ways that you can do that is sign up on the YouTube channel. And I think many of you here are already signed up and have joined us there, but this is where you can always find the latest. And then the other piece I wanted to draw your attention to is this donate button, which is very important to us because Masami spends so much time. She's always blowing our minds. And that includes me, even though I see her a lot of the time. She's always blowing our minds with new content that she's coming up with from an intuitive place, from her really deep background of 25 plus years of working with clients. And so the free programming that we're creating, I just wanted to put that out there, that there is a real cost associated with that for Masami and for us in terms of time and all the thought and energy that goes into it. So if you haven't done this or taken a moment to do this, it really does help if you donate to continue with our free programming. So that's the plug that I wanted to make, and you can find all of this on the webpage. And so I'll stop sharing with that and just bring it back to today and remind you that you can go back and revisit these topics. And our goal here is to build a resource for you, both on the website, on the YouTube channel, and all of these messages that Masami's bringing, and maybe some of the comments that I might piggyback on top of that too. But please consider that, and do visit the website, sign up for the list, sign up for the YouTube channel if you haven't yet. Okay, so with that, I'm going to hand it back to Masami, and we'll keep going with today's topic.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And yes, give us some thumbs up if you can, or not can, please do. And share the YouTube channels with your friends and family too. If you feel like you want me to continue doing it, it really helps. It really, really helps. You know, I think we live in a world of, there's a lot of one-way street things going on. So it really helps when I can hear back from you when you listen. And, you know, those live calls are actually quite easier on our bodies because we just record it and we're done. But those videos, like one of them that I did was only 17 minutes and it took me 5 takes. So even though you're watching 17 minutes of it, it took me 90 minutes to record it. So, you know, if you can just, that goes for, I think, everybody that's putting ourselves out there. And that's a segue to this full moon as well, because I think showing your gratitude and appreciation really benefits, but uplifts the world. And this is something that I wanted to talk about with the full moon, because the full moon was like, we really need to all ask ourselves, who are we? Are we a taker or are we a giver? Or do you have a good, healthy balance? And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, Chris and I were at a all-day conference, all-day seminar, basically, on hormones, and which is a topic that I've always been interested in. I wanted to learn a lot more because I'm seeing more and more people struggling with their hormones. And I'm talking hormones aren't just about sex hormones, but insulin, right? That's a hormone. Things like cortisol, that's a hormone. Your neurotransmitters, some of them are hormones. Vitamin D is a hormone. But this one was done by Dr. Lindsay Berkson, who is probably the top of the hormone educator. And I just loved her energy so much. She is going on 74 years old, looking like she is 54 years old. I mean, fantastic teacher. It was intense learning. We were learning about this from 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. We barely took any breaks. And I noticed that she was, you know, I've done this many times in live classes and things that I used to teach. but I wouldn't even take a bathroom break. And then I would just be answering people's questions. Like they would line up and then see me. And she was doing the same thing. And I decided to line up behind these people that were asking her questions. And when I got there, I said to her how much I appreciated her. And it was from my heart, really was from my heart. It's not like I was trying to make up that kind of a thing. I just said to her how much I appreciated her presence and that she was giving so many people, particularly women, so much hope that we can work with our hormones and we should be working with our hormones. And this will, we'll be sharing some of these later on. I'd like to learn a little bit more and then I can share. And then once I start to practice some of this with my private clients, then I can share more. But so I was basically expressing my gratitude to her from my heart. And I did that in the middle of it when she took a little bit of break. And then at the end, I waited till other people had all the questions done. And I also said it again. And the first time she said, okay, hold on a sec. And she said, I have to record it. Could you just say exactly what you said? And I'm thinking to myself, no, I can't say exactly what I said to you. But she's like, here's my phone. I want to record this. So she records me and I'm thinking, okay. And then at the end, I just said to her, I said, your light is so bright. And I'm tearing up because I really meant it. I said, it just shined so deeply into my heart and into so many of ours that I encourage her to keep going. She's been blacklisted many times. She's been through hard times. She's lost some medical doctor friends for her own opinions about COVID or opinions about the hormones or hormone therapy and so on and so forth. But I said, just keep going. And I don't know what else I said, Chris. I mean, I was in my zone, but I just appreciated her soul and her spirit. And then I remember saying to her, thanks for bringing the soul and the spirit into this conversation of the hormones. And I said, we're not only balancing on our hormones inside, but we're balancing the hormones of the universe. And I think something like that is what I said. And she goes, oh my gosh, I got to record this again. But before that, she stepped off of her stool that she was sitting. And she did not do this to anyone. She's not a touchy-feely person. She stood up. She goes, can I give you a hug? And I said, oh my gosh, yes, oxytocin. So I was like, let's have an oxytocin. That's a hormone too, everyone. Oxytocin hug. So we hugged each other. We kissed each other on the cheeks. And she said, and in her course, she said, I don't remember anybody's names. So she's like, don't bother telling me your name because I'm not good with names. I'm good with faces, but I'm not good with names. And she said, she just held my shoulders and said, what is your name? And I said, my name. And she repeated and she said, wow, what a beautiful name. And she's like, will you please stay in touch with me? And I said, absolutely, I will stay in touch with you. And anyway, so I'm supposed to send her another little video recording of what I said to her, because she said, I want to hear it again because that uplifts me. And I thought, I get it. I get what she's saying. It really uplifts her and it does uplift me. But I think this is kind of what many of us are struggling right now, because I've been having lots of conversations with healers and channelers and light workers and hospital workers and registered nurse. I mean, I have several registered nurses that I work with on the private level, and they're all very burnt out and exhausted. And because it's just this COVID waves for the last 3 years, nearly 3 years, have created very much of a division, not just in politics and what we believe, but also givers and takers. And I realized that I receive a lot from reading articles, watching YouTubes, signing up for these courses. And I realized being in her course for that long that day, yesterday, with almost no breaks in between. We actually broke just for lunch. That was it. And, I realized that in that moment, I had become the receiver, and I was receiving so much from her energy and her 50 years of education. And there's no way she could pack it into that hour, 1-day seminar, but I felt the depth of her. I felt the wisdom that she lived, and the wisdom that she's tapping into, and her courage to speak up about women's hormones in particular really struck something inside me. So, this is what the full moon was teaching me. She was saying to me, Masami, you've got to look at yourself. And if you are taking so much, you've got to give. And I was like, okay, I have to find ways. And that's when I thought, I'm going to do this live call. I can show up for all of you. But it was unexpected, let's say. Yesterday was an unexpected event that happened to me that taught me the balance and how this, Dr. Berkson is a very well-known doctor. I mean, so well-known globally. But I realized that she also needs receiving in that moment. So please take a moment, even right now, and just pause for a moment and think about maybe 2 people in your life that could use that, you giving to that person back. Okay, just pause and think about that. And maybe that person has moved on from this earthly matter. That's okay. But you can also just pause and give thanks to that person. Okay. But hopefully you can find that person who's still on this earth. Yeah. And last thing I wanted to say about this giving and receiving, who are you? Are you a giver or are you a taker? Kind of a funny story, kind of not, is my mom used to say to me, like lamenting. She said, my father was a minister also. He was a linguist, but he was a minister. And he studied theology at Yale. And so, he had a PhD from Yale and seminary and theology. And he used to say, thank God a lot. He would say, thank God for, and he will list all these things, thank God for. And my mom, my Japanese mother, just say it, under her breath, in the kitchen, like scrubbing the pan that she cooked a nice meal in, why can't he say, thank you to me? Why is it always thank God? Okay. It's fine to thank God, everyone. That's no problem. Thank your ancestors, thank the stars, thank your guides and angels, and thank God or gods. Okay. But you're here today. You got this blood running through you, gushing through you. Okay. It's keeping you alive. Your heart is beating every moment of your life. Thank someone that is alive and breathing today, because someday you'll regret that you didn't. Yeah. So find a warm flesh if you can, everyone. Okay. To thank. Could be pets. Yes, it could be your pets. Okay. But I think another human being, if you could think of it, that's when I think we can elevate one another. Right. So that's one thing I wanted to say with this full moon that I ended up learning just yesterday. And then I thought, wow, I put it out there. The moon was talking to me out there, to me. And I didn't know how off I was also, that I was taking a lot, and, realizing that was big. So I wanted to share that. And for the last, I would say a month or so, but particularly from the last full moon till now, many of you, I think, have been noticing like a repeating of your old patterns coming up, habits or behavior, or even like gestures. I noticed my weird gestures starting to come back. I used to kind of do this, like I will scratch my nose or like I will tap my lips or something like this, like when I'm talking. And I haven't done that for a while because, when I'm getting interviewed, you don't want to be doing this, you're poking your nose, or, doing something with your nose. Not that I was doing that, but I would just kind of scratch, probably from a little bit of nervous energy or something like that. So I hadn't been doing that, but I noticed that I was starting to do that again. And I thought, what is all these old stuff, this embedded habitual things, and then also embedded habitual dynamics between people, like our habitual patterns with Chris and me, or my friend, my best friend and me. Like we were starting to see these behaviors that were like, I thought we worked on this, this is done. But that started to surface again. So I think this full moon is definitely a good time for you to spotlight that a little bit. And then you want to say to yourself, okay, this is a lesson I've already learned. But it's really hard to let go of your old learned lessons. And I think that hardness is showing up again. It's hard to unlearn what you've learned and believed. So if you use the words like, it's always been like this, or, this is just how it is. Okay, those are some of those terminologies that we use to go back to our habitual ways. So pay attention, what kind of role play are you doing that repeats how you were as a child? And I remember as a child, I was a great helper. I was the oldest daughter, meaning I had a younger sister. I'm a middle child, but I was treated like an oldest child. And I had to take care of a lot of things, many, many things household wise. So it's that started to come up, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to take care of all these things, X, Y, and Z. All of it is up to me to make it happen. And that lesson is very hard for me to let go of. But this full moon is definitely gentle. Her energy is always gentle, just so you know, everyone. The moon energy is never harsh, never. So you can rely on that gentle kindness. And it was just letting me know, hey, you're scratching your nose, you're putting your, hands on your lips, and what is it? What's going on here? And also feeling like I have to do everything on my own. So I'm going to pass it to Chris. And then if you have any of these things coming up for you in the last couple of weeks, I would love to hear about it. And, number one thing is to bring the awareness, right? And I'm going to hand it over to Chris, okay? But the last thing I wanted to say about this is that don't worry about how to fix it, okay? That's another thing that we have done, and I'm part of that issue, actually. I created the same problem for everybody, okay? Is that we've created a society that is literally addicted to how do I fix that? Tell me what to do. Okay, we're just addicted to tools. We're addicted to more information. And don't you ever feel like at the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, I just have piles of information in front of me that I have absolutely no idea what to do with. Okay. You just are drowning in it. You're swimming in it. You're up to here with it. So you come up for a little bit of air and then you come back down again. And after I did the most recent YouTube on anxiety and chakras and how the chakras express anxieties, I received a comment that said, thank you for this, but you didn't tell us anything how to fix it, how to address these things. And I was like, you know me, I'm feisty, and I got a little bit of fire in me, right? So I started writing a response, okay? I'm like, this video is not about how-to videos. And I said, you just need to bring more awareness inside, and it's about getting to know these signs and symptoms, and so that you can listen to your own inner knowing from this. And as I said, and then I was like, I only paused for 3 seconds, and I'm like, send. Then the computer basically just stopped. It went black on me. And so I was like, what happened to my comment? And then so I turned it back on. My computer just shut down in that moment. Can you believe that? The amount of buzzing that I must have been pushing the return button with. And then so I get back on the screen and the comment is nowhere to be found. My response was nowhere to be found. I was like, oh. So then I was like, oh, thank God I didn't send that one, you know? But I just wanted to mention that if you are finding yourself getting stuck in this how-to addictions, okay, that's the same as addicted to seeking light, everyone. Let's just pause. Let's get to know ourselves. Like, didn't you do that as a child? If you got sniffles or, your ears started to hurt, or you just kind of go, got a little scratchy throat, you pay attention to it. You go, I don't know what this is, but your mom be like, oh, let's just wait and see how it goes. Do you remember that, moms? Did you have that kind of moms? They'll be like, let's just wait and see how it goes. Okay. And for me, it was like, well, I learned how to gargle. I knew I could just maybe wash my hands. I didn't go, my father and my mom were not, my father less, but my mom was never the type of person that would open the medicine cabinet and say, here's your aspirin, here's your Tylenol. They never did that for me. So it's like, wait and see, maybe my immune system will do something. Okay. So can we take a little pause between, oh my God, these are the symptoms. What do I do next? It's like, there's this thing called in the middle way, where you just kind of pause and see how it goes. Let's just see. Let's stay curious. Okay. So that's kind of what I wanted to say, because in that curiosity, you can become more in touch with your intuition. That's when you can find your answer, not my answer, not everybody else's answers. And it can liberate you a little bit from always needing to know. That is an addiction that has heightened so much in the last 3 years since COVID, because we all went through not knowing. It was very fearful of what we didn't know. And so all of us are seeking. And we were like so hungry for anybody that had remotely any kind of answers to give you, right? So let's just see if we can shift the narratives a little bit on that and pause before you ask me or send me a comment that says, where is the how-tos? Okay. And I'm not going to be answering that, because I've made so many videos. I have done so many courses. You can sign up for any of my courses and get nothing but how-tos for the next 5 months. Like, it's crazy amount of how-tos I've shared. Okay. All right. So Chris.
Okay, no, you're on a roll today. So
Sorry, ranting a little bit. Sorry, everyone.
it's not actually very much in keeping with the theme of the full moon, because for me, so much of this full moon is about something you've already mentioned. It's about shining the light on our patterns and our tendencies and all of those things. And then, so on that note, I'll come back to that one actually in a second here. But there's another thing about the full moon that for me, I think is so important. And that is the invitation that it gives to us to start again. And I think that was really something that you drew attention to for all of us in the moon course, the Reclaim Your Moon Power course, was this cycling that we get to do every single full moon, every single new moon. We get to go through and revisit and reassess and come back to ourselves. And so for me, it's that reminder also that even though I may not have brought everything in myself to the place where I want it to be today, I get to revisit it again. And so I have this moment today to feel grateful. And so, for me, just like you did with Dr. Berkson yesterday, Masami, I just wanted to say thank you, because I appreciate and love you so much and what you have done and everything that you've done to support me and that you continue to do. And so that's something that I don't always take the time to do. Not enough anyway. And I also wanted to mention that yesterday with Dr. Berkson, it was interesting to notice, because I was standing there as Masami was having this exchange with her, that a subtle thing she said about people giving her gratitude, which you could see didn't happen really all that often, the way Masami did especially. And she said that she likes these videos because she needs to watch them when she feels like her professional colleagues are turning against her, or she feels like people aren't understanding the depth and the importance of the message that she's been working on for 50 plus years as a doctor. And she's written 22 books. So, I mean, she's had a lot to say on these topics. So just as somebody of that, who's that invested in her field and her work, to say, I need these little lifts. I need to be reminded from time to time that what I'm doing actually is making a difference. That really struck me. And that goes for anybody in any walk of life. Right back to what Masami said about taking that time to express real heartfelt gratitude for people that are, maybe they're near to you, but maybe they're just somebody who's touched your life in a significant way, and you want them to know that they've had that impact. It really makes a difference. And not only that, it makes connections between us stronger. We've talked a bit about this before, about how much when one of us makes a movement forward in our life, it actually positively affects everyone that's connected, which is really all of us. So just keep that in mind. And then one last thing that I wanted to mention is that in the context of the light of the moon here, because again, this is a great metaphor for self-reflection, looking at our patterns, something that we all do to some extent. It's human behavior 101, but it's paying attention to when we are saying or doing or, acting out in some way that is really more about seeking attention from somebody else in order to have ourselves be noticed. And that's why that little practice that we did, and Masami mentioned it, because we've done it as a practice before, but to remind yourself, I am here, and to anchor yourself in that can actually help you to come back and be present with other people instead of doing what's so easy for each of us, which is to do something to get attention. And just for the sake of being reminded from someone else that I am here. So we can do that for ourselves too. And it's a very powerful thing, which can make us more available to others. Okay, I already said more than I wanted to say there.
No, it's great. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I'll give you a big hug after this.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay, so a couple more things that I wanted to say about this full moon time, okay, right now. So I've already mentioned that the old habits are definitely coming up. And I just read Sharon's comment about she's been braiding her hair so she doesn't constantly run my hands through my hair. That's interesting, definitely. And I noticed myself scratching my nose twice, just so you know, when Chris was saying nice things to me, I kind of went like this and I thought, oh, what am I kind of got a little shy about it, the fact that he was saying that on this call. But, those little habits will come up. And it's not good or bad, everyone. It's just like, okay, that's interesting. Old patterns are still alive and well inside. Okay. And another thing that I wanted to mention about this full moon is, and I'm going to use this word guaranteed. Okay. So what is guaranteed right now? Okay. There are not many things are guaranteed in this world, right? Is that we are going to continue to experience shakeups, shedding of the old patterns, and ups and downs. Okay. That's something that is guaranteed. And the word guaranteed comes from safeguard or keep from danger. So it's safeguarding us and keeping us from danger or falling apart. And why is that? That's kind of strange, right? That you're guaranteed to go through ups and downs. But we have to go through these ups and downs and shedding of the old structures and patterns. That's government, educational system, maybe even territories, medical systems. Certainly we're seeing that. And even this idea of who I am, you're guaranteed to go through ups and downs with all of that, okay? Particularly for the rest of this year, okay? Rest of this year. Most of the saying January, February. Yeah, I get it. Yes, to about the February of next year, but there's a lot of things that are falling apart. Seems like, okay. There's a revolutionary energy out there. You could turn on the news and you could see what's happening across the world. We had the Women's March in the United States yesterday, all across the nation, right? There's so much ups and downs, revolutionary energies in not just the social and maybe political setting, but economical. So financial patterns, ups and downs, banking systems, cryptocurrencies. There's a lot of ups and downs with if you're involved in stock market, you've been seeing it as well. This isn't going to just kind of calm down. Okay. So I just want you to know that that's somewhat guaranteed. And I don't usually use the word guaranteed to explain what's happening, but it is here for us so that we can grow from this, so that we can change for the better. So please look at these changes not from fearful place, but from the place of, wow, there's this beauty behind this. There is this force that is keeping us from completely falling apart, okay? It seems like it's falling apart, but in that process, we're renewing ourselves so that we don't fall apart, really. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Chris, do you want to chime in what I'm saying? Am I making sense? It's so paradoxical, it's hard.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And it goes against the normal way that we're thinking about guarantees, because we're usually looking for that stability and safety and security in everything that we do. I mean, that's just that unconscious behavior. We're all driven toward those things. And yet, if we can turn, that's sort of the paradox, is to turn and see that what is actually guaranteed is the ups and downs, like you said, the chaotic changes and all the upsets that we experience. And so it's kind of like these two opposing things driving us in different directions, but they all make up our lives. And so we have to find a way to make friends with them and hold them and stay with it, so that we don't get carried away and aren't being responsive to our lives and what's showing up for us right now.
And so I think in what's showing up in our lives right now, what's important right now that the moon is teaching me is to stay focused, put a spotlight on what it is that you're here to shine, okay? What makes you beautify the world? What makes you show up to create beauty all around? Find what that is, and it doesn't have to be 10 different things. It could just be just one thing you do, the smiles. It's a very natural thing for me to do, so it's not that difficult, but I have felt such a need to say something like to uplift that person in the store, even in like walking by somebody. We were at this clinic just last week, and I usually don't go to the doctor's office, but I was at the doctor's office to discuss my scar tissues, and because I've been very interested in neural therapy, where you actually work with your old scars. And so I was at a clinic, and it's been a fascinating process, which I will share some other time. But it was a delightful conversation I had with this doctor. And, afterwards, we were walking out and then, to pay and whatnot. And then this girl had this really awesome French braids done on her hair. And I hadn't done the French braids since like I was like in high school, maybe middle school, but it was just beautifully done. So I said, wow, that's nice. And I said, did somebody do that for you? And she goes, oh no, I did it. I said, even the top part, that looks amazing. And she said, and then she just lit up. She was this like a really focused in her work. She couldn't even lift her face up. She didn't even say really hello to us. And then when I started, because that's why I saw her head, right? Her braids. And she lifted her face up. And then she just looked at me and she said, well, thank you. And I said, you should have a side job doing that. Maybe she goes, you mean like a braid by, and she used her name afterwards, braid by Jenny or something like that. I said, yeah, I would come to that. And so we just all lit up. And then there were two other girls that were working at this office. And then, it's just busy office. Nobody's looking at anybody, but they both lifted their heads up too. And I just waved at them, walked away. And Chris goes, wow, that neural therapy must have worked really well. Like it freed up your scar tissues, that I got much more like spaciousness. And maybe that had something to do with it. But start practicing that, everyone. Can you imagine if all of us did that to one other person today? I mean, just that, what we can do to shift this world, okay? I think, and I'm sorry, everyone, I have nothing against guys and angels and ancestors, okay? But I'm so interested in living in this moment. I'm so interested in you who are breathing the same atmosphere as I am. So I'm more interested in getting to know you and elevating one another together than, so I don't spend a whole lot of time communicating with my guides and angels. They know I'll come to them when I need them. Sounds bad, but I appreciate you, ancestors, but I think I appreciate you, living you, who's here walking this earth with me. So let's, if we could do that just a little bit more in this chaotic times, in this guaranteed ups and downs time. So stop looking for ways to flatten the ups and downs, okay? We're all entered into one of those Disneyland, I don't know, it's been a long time since I've been to Disneyland, but I think they had one of those things that you walk on and the grounds are constantly moving like this. That's where we're at. So stop trying to flatten the surface. Stop trying to flatten the earth, okay? It's up and down. It's chaotic. It's got all kinds of stuff going on. So let's look at each other and recognize that we're all in this. We're all going up and down. Some of us go down when we are up. And when I'm up, maybe I could cheer this person up, okay? It's kind of like that. We're walking on that very uneven surface together, guaranteed, okay?
Masami,
So let's do that. And I do want to answer some questions today, because I did say I'm going to answer questions.
I was going to say that. I didn't want to interrupt you to say that, but I wanted to comment before we take some questions, because what you're talking about is something that we've mentioned several times, which is this idea that in the upset, in the chaos and confusion, this is where our system, our brain in particular, opens up to new ways of doing things, to new learning. And so we've talked about that learning requires that state of disequilibrium, that feeling tossed about and flipped over on your head. You need that in order to learn and grow. All of us do. And one example that I was reminded of as you were talking about this is that, like I mentioned before, of having that full moon remind us of where are we seeking attention from other people. It also reminded of something that we've talked about before in one of the classes, one of the courses, which is it's a definition of generosity I particularly like, which is giving to someone else something that you also need. Okay, it's giving to someone else something that you also need. And that is the attention. That's actually one of the easiest things to spot, is we all want attention. We seek attention in ways that we aren't even always aware of. And so is everybody else. And so what Masami is describing here is when she's going out into the world, and I'm not as good at this, I'll admit that right up front. I don't do it in nearly the kind of explicit ways that Masami does, of just acknowledging other people and getting them to smile. I might just be warm and friendly, but I'm not necessarily, I don't evoke the same response always. But we can go out there and do that, because that's a form of generosity. And that generosity is something, it's like a balm on the craziness of the world right now. It's something that brings us back together, is when we can acknowledge other people and give of ourselves. And it also feels really good, as it turns out. It feels good inside of you when you can do that for someone else, and it feels good for them when they can receive it. Unexpectedly is even better. So that's what I was reminded of with what you just said. And anyway, maybe that's a good transition to
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good, because what I can tell you, everyone, is that you showing up is you giving to me. Really, really, really is. Alan, I love you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Yeah. So that goes for everyone. You know, you showing up on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, or maybe watching this, is you showing up for me and for Chris. So thank you. And with that, I have the energy now. You know, when you do that, I have the energy to show up for you. And so, yeah, I am ready to answer if you have any questions you have for me. Could be the full moon, or could be the health related, whatever it might be. Feel free to put it on the chat or raise your hand, and we'll just do for about 10 minutes. Okay. So that we don't keep you too long. So while I'm waiting for that to come up, I will read some. Alan says, I'm really receiving what you're giving and appreciate both of you for what you share. You're welcome. And Sue said, I like your new picture behind you. Me too. Isn't that cute? I know. I just saw that and I thought, oh, that's perfect for the moon call that I'm doing.
Well, I'm having,
and they just said, me too.
I'm having a
I
hard
love that beautiful sweater on you. Thank you. It's a sweater weather. Can you believe this in Colorado? I love sweater weather. Okay.
Sorry,
All right. Any questions coming in?
I was talking over you. Sorry. I'm saying that I'm a little surprised, because we must have really satisfied something that people were ready to receive today, because there aren't even any hands up. So
wow, that's rare.
That is a first.
Oh, and you know, I wanted to remind all of you that tomorrow is the Indigenous Peoples Day. Richard had reminded me as well, and I was actually looking at it yesterday. So really, you know, I can't help it but to know and feel there's certain grounds, particularly, you know, when we're driving to South Dakota, you know, North Dakota area. I lived in the northern part of Minnesota. There are a lot of Indigenous people that really created beautiful cultures up there. Every time I would get wild rice, I always order from the natives from Minnesota that they actually go and harvest these wild rice with their carved canoes. I mean, it's a beautiful practice that's still going on, but it's an Indigenous Day tomorrow. So, and it's not just tomorrow, it's every day, because I'm reminded every time I walk on this earth that I'm not the first person that stepped on to this earth, this grounds that we have our houses built on, and, you know, factories built on, and the government buildings built on. So let's recognize that, and recognize that in us too, because without them, we wouldn't be here either. So yeah, thanks for reminding me of that, Richard.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
There
Any
are
questions?
2 questions that have come in. So maybe let's just keep it to these 2 today.
Okay.
This one's from Jimena, and she says, my blood pressure has been extremely high in the past days. Could that be related to the moon?
I do not get yes on the moon. Moon will certainly impact your fluids in your body and your sleep patterns, but not in your case. And Jimena, I think I emailed you with, some of the recommendations. I sent you the recommendations on the supplements as well. So I would definitely look at that, the email that I sent you a couple of weeks ago. The first thing that popped in my head was magnesium. Okay, so I'm getting yes on magnesium orotate with you. So I would definitely get more started on the magnesium orotate on an empty stomach. It's best to take it away from food. Okay. And you may want to do, I only get yes on morning and evening to take maybe a couple of capsules in the morning, couple of capsules at night. If your stools become too loose, then you can pull back. Okay, so you don't need to do that many. But you're missing magnesium for sure. And the magnesium is something that yesterday's course too was teaching us too, but it's very easily lost in human bodies right now with any stress. And then, oh, that's right. Dr. Bergson said to us in the course that if a jet plane flies over your head and you're not even close to the airport, like you don't even live by the airport, or you notice like a military helicopter go by or any kind of loud noise, even a truck going by, she said that just that noise alone is so exhausting to our nervous system that you zap your magnesium. Can you believe that? I was like, I knew magnesiums are so important for your blood sugar regulations and lots of stressors, heart issues definitely connected to magnesium, but I had no idea that even a sound of an airplane going by can cause you to lose magnesium. It's that easily lost through urinations and sweating, okay? But it gets used up as a molecule a lot to balance your blood sugar too, okay? And I wanted to kind of quickly mention this, and I promise you I will go into this a little bit more. But I'm a constipation queen, right? All of you, right? I have worked with my constipation since I was like, I didn't even know my name probably, when I started working with my constipation issues. So one thing I learned, and I am going to be experimenting on myself first, so please don't go out and do it yet, okay? Because I will let you know how it goes. But I have always been really low on oxytocin. My mother was a very distant kind of a person. She never hugged me, okay? She never said, I love you. I mean, I didn't grow up in that culture, okay? Alan, you get it. Takako-san, you get it. Japanese mothers do not hug you, okay? And then they never say, I love you, okay? That's not even, it sounds weird in Japanese, just so you know. So it's just, I didn't get the oxytocin. And I had no idea, everyone. I've been a constipation queen. I've studied this for so many years, decades learning this. And I learned yesterday, okay, that oxytocin, the lack of oxytocin, can actually cause people to have constipation that is chronic. What? Right? So, for those of you that have known me for a long time, this doesn't surprise you. When I learned something like that, I experiment on myself right away, ASAP. So I ordered oxytocin nose spray, okay? You can get oxytocin nose spray, and I ordered it. It should come in 3 days. I haven't received it yet. I'll give you give you an update sometime, okay? That I'm going to actually use that to see if that would help me with my chronic constipation issues. Because I do magnesium, I do massage, I do breathing exercises, I eat impeccably, everyone. Like, you can't believe how clean I eat and well I eat. I still have issues. And it started to come back up again for me. And I thought, what the heck? So I had Chris give me an extra long hug last night. I had him give me extra hug this morning till oxytocin spray comes. So I'll give you an update at some point, okay? Totally. I answered my own questions for you guys. Okay. All right. What are the other questions?
Let's just do one more, but I wanted to say that Jimena wrote back that She actually lives not too far from the airport, which is interesting because the point of that was that people that live under flight paths of airplanes in particular have that problem with holding on to their magnesium. But like you said, it could be other loud, abrupt noises that are happening regularly too. So, okay, one more thing. There's one other question. Let me scroll back up to it. And thank you all for your comments. I may read a couple of those before we jump off. But Erlene says, many of my friends and myself are troubled with vertigo in the last 2 months. Is that something you're finding with your clients recently? Is it energetic? Is it an energetic?
Yeah, the answer is yes, definitely energetic, but there's a physical side too. So how do I, vertigo, lots of like inner ear issues, kind of like if you turn too fast, feel a little dizzy kind of thing. I've been experiencing some of that too myself, or I find myself like pick up something and go here and then I get a little bit weird dizziness. So there is this energetic changes, definitely. Moon cycles will definitely impact you too. A lot of the planetary systems, were going retrograde for a long time, and a lot of them are actually going direct right now. So those changes can definitely impact you as well. But when it comes to inner ear issues, I have to look at this individually because there are a couple different reasons why physically this happens. Number one, I like to look at that person's alignment. So if that person's been in like whiplash, or they've fallen on their heads, or they're maybe C1 or Atlas is like a little bit off, or maybe they need to get craniosacral done, gentle adjustments of the head. That's got to be looked at, number one. Number two, related to that is the tightness of the bottom of the feet. And sounds crazy, but that's what shows up a lot right now. Feet issues are a lot right now. I'm getting so many clients talking about their feet issues. And that's showing up in like vertigo issues as well. But what you want to make sure to address is that your fascia in the bottom of your feet are not so getting too tight. So rolling on like a little ball, okay, not a tennis ball, but the size of like a golf ball. If you use a golf ball, place a towel over it so it's not so hard, and roll on it and release the bottom of the feet. And see if that's tight for you, that fascia is tight for you. Because if that fascia is tight, that fascia is going to send a signal back to the back of your head, and it does impact right into the eyebrows right here. So you might be getting headaches, but that can have an impact on your inner ear locations as well. It could cause you to have a vertigo too. So that's kind of structural. The second one that's semi-structural, but a little bit connected more of a sinus issues. So if you have sinusitis, or if you have stuffy sinuses, or you got mucousy stuff, or you're always breathing in and out of your mouth, you snore a lot, you get like sticky stuff coming out of your eyes, those are all putting a pressure in your ears, okay? So you want to address your sinuses before you just go off and start to address your ears, okay? So that's complicated because you have to do not just sinus rinse, but you have to really address fungal issues. So 96% of chronic sinusitis is caused by fungal overgrowth. So you want to make sure you are taking care of your diet. And, this sounds very strict, but when you have vertigo going on, you really want to remove as much sugar as possible. So white sugar is out, and you may need to take a break from fruits for about, I would say, up to like 3 months. You just don't eat any fruits. No piece of fruit. None. Zero whatsoever. Maybe lemon juice, lime, avocados. Okay, those are fruits. Those are okay, but removing the sugar as much as you can so you're not having these like a chronic sinusitis issues that could be causing that too. And another thing that I'm just going to give you 3 because there are multiple, but these are the 3 that I see the most. Third one, and they're all kind of equal, okay? So you want to kind of address them all. But the third one will be your liver. So if your bile is not flowing very well, that can actually cause you to have inflammation in your body, and that can cause pressure in your inner ear. So taking care of your liver and your gallbladder. So if you are missing a gallbladder, you know what to do. I've done many, many videos on this, but you've got to support your gallbladder by using bile salts, right? You want to eat things that are bitter, using things like ginger, milk thistle, love it. Right now I'm going on a milk thistle kick. I've been drinking milk thistle tea every single night for the last 3 weeks or so. And yesterday was the first night that I thought, oh, enough with the milk thistle, because I think my body said enough with the liver, addressing the liver. Okay. But those, not just the vertigo, but tinnitus is a big one, dizziness, just a sharp, sometimes like a sharp pain that will go through it. You have to address those 3 things first. And I know that there's a hormonal connection to this, that estrogen level, and I would say testosterone level can definitely impact your vertigo too. But that's something that you want to get blood tested done, so you get your hormones checked. Okay. And, I'll be changing my practice a little bit, working with individuals, but I read people's blood tests as well. So I'm going to start to incorporate that a little bit into my private clients' work. But it's important that you do get your blood tested. Make sure you know where your testosterone level is, where your estrogen level is, and progesterone, and just to get a sense of where your sex hormones are right now. That would be very, very important. Okay. So I think those are the things that I have to say about that. It's a tough thing because it's very bio-individual. It's case by case, but I would start with those 3 things. But start with what you can do, which is to work on your fascia, myofascia. Okay. And remember, your fascia holds all your memories. Okay. Fascia is like your library of your life. And it's not just a library of your life, but with your ancestors' life too. So you got nothing but information stuck in the fascia. So if your fascia feels rigid, they don't open up as much, they're starting to get brittle or dried up kind of feelings, you really want to address fascia through fascial movements, maybe fascial techniques. You might want to find somebody that does myofascial release. Those are fabulous things to do. But number 1 is the bottom of your feet are the thickest connections of fascia. Okay. You can't find a thicker fascia locations than the bottom of your feet. So if you release the bottom of your feet, you can actually end up releasing a lot of other fascias that sit above you. You see the importance of your feet, right? But we've created a culture, the world, that we are always wearing shoes. Isn't that interesting? None of us want to really look at our history. None of us want to really visit where we come from, so take your shoes off, roll on your feet, walk on the ground. I mean, those are not just the earthing, everyone. And we're not just earthing. We're actually releasing our library. Okay, we're learning about who we are when you address your feet. And that's going to have an impact on the rest of you. So be very aware of that too. Okay, so don't go crazy and try to release all your library in one day. You can't read all the books in the library in one day. So one layer at a time, okay? Because otherwise it just kind of, your alignment changes when you address your feet, okay? So that's why reflexology is important, but fascial release is probably even, in addition to reflexology, will be powerful to do, okay? That's where your memories are. And your bones hold much, much deeper history also. So, but I don't know, some of you know this, but I'm a nerd about the fascia, right? Bones are now being considered as an extension of fascia. So we're not actually calling bones a separate structure of bones, but bones are what communicates through the fascia. And when the fascia come together that they become bones. So if you're having bone issues, you got to look at your history.
So can I jump in and
Okay.
I'm going to come onto the stage with the big white cane and start to drag you off toward this.
Any other questions? I mean, I'm seriously, like, I want to answer one more question.
More questions, but I'd like to actually pull back just a second because we probably could go another half hour if we do more questions. What I would say to everybody, whether we've answered your question or not today, is to look at something that I've learned and that's really informed my own approach. And Masami and I talk about this all the time, is that it's this idea that the mind loves a puzzle and it's always looking for more and more complexity, when really what we need to do is pull back and look at what's right in front of us. And what that often means is starting with very simple things that we're overlooking because they're so boring. They're so mundane. We just don't want to look at them because it's everyday. It's not exciting. It's not, it doesn't kind of spark some kind of excitement for us. So we don't want to look at it. But so many of the health issues that any of us deal with are going to start in the same place. We just call it the basics for short. Are you sleeping? Are you hydrated? Are you eating quality foods that are whole foods, fresh foods, seasonal foods, all of those things, which, again, it's become such a boring thing to talk about, but yet we have to come back to that. And some of the questions that we're not going to be able to touch on today have a lot to do with making sure that that foundation is solid. And a second thing is, we live in a world today, and we were reminded of this by Dr. Berkson at the training seminar we were at yesterday, that we live in increasingly, it's already extremely toxic, but it's an increasingly toxic world. And that's not just a scare tactic to say that. It's a fact. It's a chemical fact that we are awash in these synthetic chemicals that are all around us, in the air and the water and our food and packaging and clothing, everything. And so many of these issues that are coming up in these questions are related to a very simple process of cleaning out our body by supporting what it needs to function, and also removing the toxins out. And in many cases, it's pulling them away from the hormone receptors of our cells. And that's for a whole other course. So I won't even go any further than that today, because that's a huge topic. But just know that really simple, basic level is always the place to come back to if you have questions. Are you doing those very simple things first and foremost? Because if you're not, no matter how exotic you get in your treatment or your self-care program, you're still going to have to come back to those at some point if you're not addressing those. Okay, you can't escape it. None of us can. I don't escape it. Masami doesn't escape it. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so heading off the soapbox, we should wrap up.
I know we should wrap up. I have to answer Peter's dog's question, because Peter's picture has a little dog on it too. So I have to address Peter's dog. Okay, so he says, my dog had a blood test with signs of hypothyroidism coming on. I'm using an herbal mix to bring in balance. Any suggestions? Yeah. So I like to know the sex of this dog too, but the first thing that came to me was adrenals. So Peter, your dog is kind of stressed out. And Peter, that's because you're stressed. So I need you to address your stress first, so your dog doesn't carry the stress. Like, your dog is trying to filter your stress. And so you want to find the location of your dog's adrenal glands, okay? And rub that area of the dog before you start addressing the thyroid. Because the thyroid I consider thyroid to be the little sister of the adrenal sisters. She's the little sister, okay? So before we address the little sister issues, we have to go, okay, what's happening with the twin sisters that are older? And if we can get those adrenals to relax and soften up, like massaging that area with your own hands will be very helpful for the dog. And don't get too focused in on the hypothyroidism, okay? Because that hormone, the conjugation of the T4 to T3 in the thyroid, in the human beings anyway, and in dogs too, but I'm talking from the human beings level, the conjugation from T4 to T3 requires your enzymes that gets produced from the liver, but the liver gets impacted by your adrenals, okay? So we call it the PAL system. P stands for pancreas, A stands for adrenals, and L stands for liver, right? So you have to make sure you take care of the PAL. So pancreas means, is your dog eating regularly? Okay. Is the dog getting enough protein? Is the dog digesting? And then also you need to look at how the adrenals, what are the stressors that I'm carrying that this dog is actually absorbing? And then that has to be addressed before we can even address the liver. But the liver is such an important element for hormonal balance and also the conjugation from T4 to T3. So Peter, my suggestion to you, number one, is that you work on your anxieties, your adrenal fatigue issues that you've been carrying around, and massage your dog's adrenals. Okay.
Okay.
That's what I have to say about that. Yeah.
Back to what I said about toxins, and then we got to go, is that animals like dogs, cats, any kind of household pets that we might have, we're all bioaccumulators, which means as organisms, we pick up whatever is in our environment, whatever we eat, we accumulate that in our tissues. So our pets are often a very good indicator of the impacts that we are also experiencing in our own bodies. They just see it faster because, one, they live shorter lives for the most part, but also because they're smaller. So what they're being exposed to, that we're being exposed to, they're accumulating it faster relative to their body size. So this is where you want to go back again to quality of your water. Is it filtered? Are you drinking tap water? Dog food is not known for being free of heavy metals and other toxins. They don't really take as much care as they might even for human food, and that's problematic. So there are a lot of interfering things that you want to start to think about, but dogs and cats are really reflections of our own health. So, okay. I'm going to have to pull the plug.
Okay. All right. We'll be back again. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Chris, for unplugging me, because I could just go on like this for another 2 hours, but you know.
We'll do it another time, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good, everyone. We'll see you very soon again. Bye.